everyone. My name is Peggy Kern. I'm a professor at the University of Melbourne in Australia. I'd like to talk to you about something called radical acceptance, which is a term that comes from dialectical and behavioral therapy. Radical acceptance is choosing to accept something all the way. So it's not a partial acceptance, it's choosing to believe it all the way. Radical acceptance is very helpful for when life happens. Rather than fighting it or grieving about it or resisting the reality that you're experiencing it, you're choosing to accept it and say, this is reality, now what can I do about that reality? It's not the same as approving of it. So there's a lot of things that happen in our lives that we don't approve of, we don't want, but by accepting it, then we can actually take action to improve our situation and reduce the suffering that we experience. So the pain is still there, but we don't have to suffer within that pain. Now, in Now and Next, I've been a part of the research team, and Now and Next really embraces this concept of radical acceptance. Typical models of disability see it as you're grieving this child that you did not expect to have, this disability. But in Now and Next, we actually start with radical acceptance to say, this is my reality. And by accepting that, then we can say, well, how can we accept that and then work to improve the situation? And so we move forward with ways that we can actually draw upon or identify and draw upon the strengths of our child. And from there, we can actually meet goals. We can do all of the things that we'd love to do in our life. And what we've seen is through this acceptance that we actually see parents increase in empowerment. They increase in well-being. And so when you take it gives you a sense of control that is actually really beneficial for functioning and well-being. So thank you for letting me share this with you.
Tell us about the thriving component in Now and Next, and how you define thriving and how you see it happen in Now and Next, because you're the head of our research team.
Yes. So when I think about sort of what we're really aiming for in terms of living well in life, I like to use the word thriving. There's a lot of people use the word well-being that has a lot of different definitions, ranging from the lack of mental illness to flourishing. I don't like the word flourishing because it has a sense of just sort of, I flourish, and then after a flower flourishes, it dies. With the sense of thriving, it's a much more ongoing sense of contentedness despite the ups and downs that life brings. And I like thriving for a number of reasons. We can think of a garden as an analogy of this. When we look at a garden, different gardens look different, but you can tell when a garden is thriving. So a thriving cactus garden looks different than a thriving flower garden, but you have a sense of that garden is doing well. In the same way, thriving in life looks different to different people. So you have to find what is actually most helpful for you. What does it look like to feel well and function well in life? Secondly, a garden needs care. And so if you don't give the garden enough nutrients, water, sunshine, etc., then the garden might die. In the same sense, to thrive in life, we actually have to purposely engage in actions that support the mental health of ourselves and those around us. Third, a garden is composed of multiple flowers or multiple vegetables, or it's not a single flower. That would just be a flourishing flower. If I'm thriving at the expense of everyone around me, that's not actual thriving. So thriving actually occurs when we are actually doing well and supporting those around us. in the same way, others support us. And so the garden works together to support the functioning or the thriving of all of the plants. And in the same way, others in the community have an impact on how we're doing in life.
And as groups of peers.
Groups of peers are so important. We are not a single person journeying on life. There are others who are experiencing similar things that we can actually unite with and learn from and support one another. And then finally, we have to be thinking about the conditions of the garden. What's around, we have the weather, we have anything can affect a garden. I'm not a gardener, so I can't really.
The ground,
the soil, the whatever, things I don't know, which is why my gardens die. And so the environment has an impact on how we feel and how we function. And so we want to move towards, areas in our life that actually support our functioning, and accept the things that we cannot change. And so we can address the things that we can change, such as I can set goals for my child, my family, and myself, and then I can take actions to fulfill those goals. I live within a system that has certain perspectives about disability. I can accept that's sort of like the lens. I can accept that we have the disability. I can accept these challenges that are there, and then I can say, well, what do I have control over? And so I actually address the things that I actually have control of, and then I radically accept the things that I cannot change.
It's interesting that you say that, because often families with young children go and see a professional, and the professional says, oh, you're grieving. What's the difference between grieving and radical acceptance?
So what's the difference between grieving and radical acceptance? Grief comes when we lose something that we care deeply about, or the thought that we've lost something that we really care about. And grieving within disability oftentimes has the message that, you've lost the life that you expected to have for your child. And so it very much takes on the sense of, you are broken and we need to hold you. You need to go through the grief process, which is going to have the different stages of anger, of just sort of deep sadness over the loss that has occurred, and ultimately coming to a place where you have to live with that reality. Radical acceptance, in contrast, says, okay, the reality is that there's disability there. I accept that. I don't approve of it. I don't want it, but it's reality. And so I can take that, move from that sense of acceptance to then say, well, what can I do about it to make the life of my child, my family, and myself better? And so instead of this sense of loss, which is a sense of moving away or avoidance, what radical acceptance does is it allows us to actually approach the situation and do what we can to make it as good for our family and our child and ourselves as possible.
And we have the results to support it.
We have the results to support it. That's the exciting part of, as a researcher, the exciting thing about being a part of this project is that when we follow the strategies within Now and Next, it changes the way that we feel and the way that we function. It improves well-being. It gives us a sense of empowerment. It makes us hopeful about the future. So instead of a sense of sort of loss that I'm grieving, I actually have the hope. I have goals that I'm working towards and achieving, and I have a sense of thriving that many professionals think is impossible for parents with a child with disability. But what we're saying is it's not only possible, but it's the exciting possibility for the future.
It's sustainable in the long term.
It's sustainable in the long term as well. So we've looked at sort of like right after the program, but we've also looked at the impact of the program months or years later. And what we see is it makes a sustainable change in people's lives. And so it's a life-changing program. And I encourage you to, I just go along for the journey, because you'll never know where it will actually take you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.